Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Best of UPS, a celebration of our top student researchers from the University Presentation Showcase. My name is Dr. Jonathan Gore. I'm a psychology professor and the director of undergraduate research and creative endeavors at EKU. I'm also the coordinator of the University Presentation Showcase, which we normally do in the first floor of the library, but due to restrictions, we had to do it all online. At the end of that University Presentation Showcase is an award ceremony. So we're going to do the award ceremony on Zoom. All the students on this talk will be our award recipients of the Outstanding Project Award for UPS. So I want to welcome and congratulate all of the student presenters today. So joining me are Chase Terry, a wildlife management major, Diamond Harrison, a biomedical sciences major, Aaron Caldwell, a medical laboratory science major, Madison Hamilton, an exercise and sports science major, and Matthew Smith, a psychology major. Welcome to you all and congratulations. Don't forget to celebrate. So we're going to go to sort of one at a time, but we'll start with an easy question, which is just tell me where you're from and why you chose EKU. Why did you choose to come to EKU? So we'll start with Chase.
So I'm from McQuarrie County, Kentucky. It's a very small county located right down below Somerset. But I went to a community college for 2 years in Somerset. And actually, I found out that EKU had a really good wildlife management program. So that's the main reason why I came to EKU.
Great. Diamond?
Hi, everyone. My name is Diamond Harrison. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. The reason I came to EKU was because they had my biomedical science program that I was doing in high school. So I thought it'd be like a perfect continuation, and the campus is small, so I really like that. And it's not too far away from home. So that's why I chose EKU.
Aaron.
Hello, my name's Aaron Caldwell. I'm actually originally from Wolfe County. I was a trio member through Upward Bound through EKU. I originally went to Berea, but with me, EKU is just, I'd been there for like 2 or 3 years through Upward Bound. I knew it really well. I already knew people there that I had connections with. And so I left Berea and came back to EKU.
Madison?
Hi, I'm Madison. I'm originally from Lexington, Kentucky, and I chose EKU because I love the campus. I love that it's not too small, but it's also not too big. And once I got accepted into the honors program here at EKU, that's what really pushed me to decide to come here because I fell in love with that program.
And Matthew.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matthew. I'm originally from Frankfort, Kentucky. And I came to EKU because my sister came here and I learned a lot about the campus through her. And I also learned about the psychology department here. And it was just a great fit for me, I thought.
Great. I think it's great that each of you kind of had a different reason for coming, and you also were able to utilize a lot of the resources of the different programs. So if you want to talk about any of those programs during this, that's absolutely fine too. So you won an award for an outstanding project. I think it's only fair that the people watching this get to see what that project actually was. So I would love for each of you to, I'm going to put your poster up, and I would love for each of you to sort of describe why you did this project, what you found, and maybe what's something that you would follow up with it. So Chase, I'm going to share the screen, my screen, and I have your poster up here. Okay, go ahead, Chase.
So the main goal of this study was to determine the raccoon den tree characteristics within the Dangaboo National Forest by using an actual raccoon hunting dog. So within this study, I found 25 actual trees, and then I also found 25 random trees and compared the differences in all of my data, trying to determine what was significant and what was not significant. So I found that the Most prominent den tree species were Quercus alba, which was 7 counts, and Toshuter canadensis, which was 6 counts, and that the aspect of a den varied as well, with east being 11 counts, south being 9 counts. So McCrory and Pulaski County are very rural areas, and raccoons tend to den in trees because of a lack of man-made structures. The two key characteristics for suitable raccoon den trees was a circumference of a tree, which is how big the tree actually is, and the diversity of mass-producing species that were within the sites. So the lower circumference of the trees that was found, which all the trees needed to be 29.34 centimeters diameter at breast height in order for the raccoons to den in it. So the lower circumference of a tree could be due to past timber harvest and present forest management. Also, previous studies suggested that raccoons preferred trees whenever they had cubs during the summer months to protect them from predators. And in correlation with a study, which was conducted in May to August, which was the cub rearing season, which could be the reasoning behind why each den was in a tree. And the higher diversity of mass-producing species allowed the raccoons to have more available food resources, even whenever food shortages occurred. And that is pretty much it.
Great, thank you. So what made you decide to do this particular project? What motivated you to do this project?
Well, actually, I was wanting to do something with fish, but whenever COVID hit, that kind of killed my whole fish idea because, you couldn't have a lot of people in one area or anything in that matter. And living in McCrory County, I know that there's a lot of raccoons. So I thought that this would be a really awesome study because I live in the middle of nowhere. So I figured I could go in between two counties and find enough trees and the differences between them to figure out why raccoons are so prominent and like what they den in preferably.
Great, thank you very much. So let's go to Diamond and Aaron's poster, and I will share that one. Okay, so can you tell us about this poster, Diamond and Aaron?
Yes. Is it pulled up?
I still see the last one.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Give me 1 sec.
You're good.
It wouldn't be fair to have to describe someone else's poster, would it?
We could try.
That would be, yeah, for you. All right, there you go.
So essentially, we were trying to isolate a novel mycobacteriophage from soil and the environment. So pretty much, bacteriophages phages are a class of viruses, and they infect and are parasitic to bacteria. So we were looking at Mycobacterium, and that was our host bacterial cell. So pretty much we just wanted to isolate a phage and characterize it. So look at its DNA, sequence it, and that sort of thing. And Aaron will kind of talk about how we did that, our methods and stuff.
Okay. So to be able to do this, what we had to do is we had to isolate a soil sample, and we both picked different places around Kentucky, and we isolated it and enriched it with M. smegmatis. After we enriched our sample, we took to isolating it. And when we knew we had isolated a single phage, we purified that phage until we got a consistent morphology throughout our line. Once we had a consistent morphology, we were able to collect it into a titer using a pool. And once we had our titer, we were able to use it to get a higher titer. We had to have one that was out to at least above 10 to the -8 or 10 to the 8th. And when we got that, we were able to go into DNA sequencing, which is the part that we are at right now. COVID kind of messed up. We were really close to getting a DNA sequencing, and it sat too long. Now we're doing that again to figure that part out.
So for the results, well, we each had our own results. So for mine, I found my soul, well, I collected my soul sample, I think it was like near Stratton. So like we were literally like just going like random places and collecting soil samples. And it took me like 8 soil samples until I finally got a consistent phage. So my plaques, so like when we plate our like infected bacteria and viruses and stuff like that on the L-agar plates, they will present these things called plaques, which are like small like circles. So it's evidence that the bacteria, the virus was able to get into the bacterial cell and lyse it, which is like pretty much like burst it open and replicate and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, my plaques were like kind of small, and they like varied sometimes in range, but after we got our purification like several like times, it became a consistent morphology, and yeah, that's what blew my mind.
Yeah, it was super fun, especially being able to work with Diamond. We were both in the lab. We were able to see the differences in our phages. So you would think, you know, we're both working with phages, they're going to be very similar, but they were very different. I think in the end, Diamond's were a bit bigger than mine. Mine were more hazy than Diamond's. They were harder to see. After 24 hours, they were visible, but if I incubated them for 48, it would actually allow for a more visible lysis, which was really neat. And another cool thing about all of this is once we can get DNA sequencing, and especially if it is something no one else has discovered, we will put it into the database, and it can just, the best possible thing is it will allow people to have better knowledge and better understanding of bacterial phages, because there's tons out there that's never even been like identified.
Great, thank you both. I think it's also nice to see a research team because a lot of times when you hear about student projects, you assume that they're all done sort of individually, and oftentimes they are. But I think it's nice to have, you know, you're talking about being in the same lab and kind of doing parallel projects. You're not exactly doing the exact same thing, but you're doing very.
It was definitely really nice. Originally, we both had separate projects from Dr. Pierce, but with COVID and stuff, it was easier for her to just combine it into one and have us both work on it at the same time. And I actually think in our case, it helped a lot, because if there was something I didn't understand, Diamond would normally understand it and be able to walk me through it. Or like if there was something she didn't understand, I knew it, and we were just able to like jump back and forth through each other and be able to heighten our understanding of our project, and in the long run just like be able to do it to the best we can.
Yeah, and again, you're also saying how like a lot of people assume that research projects or even what you're learning in the classroom is all directed by the professor, but there's a lot of communication between students and among students that really help sort of fill in the gaps of your understanding of that, and that collaborative learning is really cool. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want to say?
I was going to mention that the reason we were doing this was for the McNair Scholars Program. So like, that's really cool, especially if like we want to continue our education and get like our PhD. A lot of that is like research required. So that was a big like importance to it.
Yes, and I love the McNair program. I teach a class on it, on research methods. And anytime I have someone like Diamond in the class, I'm kind of like, I don't really know what you're talking about because I'm not a professor, but I have to defer to their expertise a lot more. So I'm so glad that it was able to come to fruition, and with very little help from me, at least. Definitely glad to see that it was completed and successful. Okay, so Madison, let's get your poster up here. That's actually not here. That's yours. Okay.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and start by talking about kind of our initial thought process through this. So first, the initial problem that we've noticed and talked about is how stressed out college students are. Basically, we all have seen it as from a student perspective or from a professor perspective. So college students are really stressed out, and we have this culture in America of all of these negative coping mechanisms for stress. And mental health is still something that's very stigmatized. So there are a lot of college students that turn to negative coping mechanisms. So we looked at different coping mechanisms like alcohol use and drug use, and then even in extreme cases, suicide as coping mechanisms for all of this stress. And throughout our research, we found that alcohol use, drug use is extremely high among college students, and suicide is actually the second leading cause of death of college students. So it's a very, very bad problem that we need to look into. And so in our department, exercise and sports science, we obviously want to promote exercise as a coping mechanism for everything. And when we think about exercise, we often think about physical health and how it helps us physically, but we need to really provide the perspective of this is something that helps your mind as well. This is a key for your mental health also. So that is the problem that we were encountering. And so our purpose for this study was to kind of examine that and examine why people, specifically college students, are motivated to exercise. And by analyzing that, we could see how we can use this to our advantage and motivate more people to exercise. So for our study, we focused on the Exercise Benefits and Barriers Scale survey is the survey that we used. And this is a survey, it consists of 43 questions. And from that survey, we pulled out 13 of those questions that were mental health related. And those are the ones that we ran statistics on and are looking at specifically. And our sample size, we have a huge sample size of 569 participants. So we were able to come up with some really significant results from those. So you can kind of see there at the table in the middle on the bottom, that is our results table. So out of those 13 mental health related questions, 4 of those came out with statistically significant results. And for those results, we are mainly focusing on the differences between males and females. So we ran t-tests on those, and each of those 4 that came out with statistically significant results, the females were citing those more often than males. So the statements were, I enjoy exercise, my disposition is improved with exercise decreases my fatigue, and exercise allows me to carry out daily routines without becoming tired. So all of those are being cited more by females, and very significantly more. So when looking at that, we are kind of thinking, well, why are males not turning to exercise to help with their mental health? So our recommendations for, based on these results, are basically we need to, first of all, it was really significant that we found that males are not enjoying exercise as much as females. So it's really important for us as exercise professionals and fitness professionals to gear our workouts and exercise programs to be more enjoyable, and for especially for everyone, but also especially for those males that don't seem to enjoy exercise, and possibly we were thinking possibly maybe they see it as more of a chore that they're pressured into doing rather than something that should be enjoyable for them. And so for each of these, we kind of see that we need to target groups differently for different when we're making our exercise programs. So we know, for example, that exercise helps me decrease fatigue. We know that right after a workout, we're all fatigued. That's how it works. But in the long run, the research does show that exercise should decrease your fatigue chronically. So we're thinking, possibly the males are overexerting themselves, pushing themselves too far. And so we really need to create workout programs for them that have the optimal frequency, intensity, time, and type of exercise. And in the future, after looking at these results, we were thinking some future research really needs to be done on the specific kinds of exercise that females or males might be more motivated to do. So when it comes to maybe sport participation or aerobic exercise or weightlifting, what groups should we be targeting with those specific types of exercise? And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thank you, Madison. All right. So we have Matthew from psychology department. I'll get your poster up. You can tell us a little bit about what you did.
Okay, so the goal for our study was to examine the effects video game habits have on attentional control, which in summary, attentional control is basically the ability to focus on a goal while resisting distractions. And so for our predictions, we predicted that participants who play more hours a week will perform better in the flanker task than participants who play fewer hours a week. And we also predicted that participants who play action video games will perform better in the flanker task than participants who play strategy games. And lastly, we predicted that participants who play on the computer will perform better in the flanker task than participants who play on console. So we used a questionnaire to measure participants' video game usage, what genre they play, and where they play. And the Ericsson flanker task was used to record participants' reaction times. And so what the Ericsson flanker task consists of is it would show an image in the center of the screen with arrows facing either left or right. And their goal was to focus on the center arrow and react and answer if it was left or right as quickly as it could. And so we recruited a total number of 107 participants, and they would first answer to the questionnaire. And following that, they would respond to the flanker task. And what we found is that participants who play video games more hours a week perform better, meaning they had shorter reaction times in the flanker task than participants who play video games fewer hours a week. And we also found that participants who play video games on a computer perform better in the flanker task than participants who play video games on a console. And so this basically means that playing video games, an activity that is engaging and entertaining, can be a way to enhance attentional control in the general population. And this is good because higher levels of attentional control can translate to lower levels of cognitive decline later in life.
Yeah, when I was in graduate school, we had some social psychologists who focused a lot on sort of the negative side of video games. It's nice to see that there are some benefits. I think lots of parents would like to know that at least there are some benefits to video games. That's sort of keeping your attention locked in. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think people watching this, you can see that all of these different projects came from different areas, and they all had sort of their own research questions, and they were all done at a very high level of quality. So all of these posters are excellent, and they're very well done in each of their different fields. So really proud of how they came out. So we talked about research teams, but we didn't really talk about your mentors yet. And we do know that mentorships are key to undergraduate research to make sure that the quality is really good. And there's lots of guidance that's required for that. So could each of you tell me who your faculty mentor is and then how that mentorship began and developed? Chase?
So my mentor was Dr. Stephen Smithron, and during my first semester at EKU, I was actually kind of struggling in one class, and he actually picked me up and helped me through it and helped me figure out my study habits and everything in between. But I've had many classes with Smithron, and I enjoy every single one of them.
So how did the decision to start a research project come about?
It was actually in Wildlife 489. It's a research class for wildlife. And I actually done this project then, and then we tweaked it a couple of times to get it to where it is now.
Great. Yeah, a lot of these research projects do start in a formal classroom where others sort of start off a little more independently. So it's good to see that that sort of blossomed out of that class. So Diamond and Aaron.
Go ahead, Diamond.
For me, I'm trying to think. Well, our mentor is Dr. Marcia Pierce. And I believe the first time I met her was during the Phi Sigma Biological Honor Society. I think she's an advisor for us. So that's the first time I had met her. And then spring of 2020, I was looking for a mentor, and our coordinator for the McNair program, Debbie Sauer, she had recommended me to her. So that's how I met her and got involved. I just went up to her office and said, hey, do you have any research I could, team up with you on? And from there, that's how it happened.
It was similar for me. We were both in the McNair program, so we had to find a mentor for our summer research. And I was originally wanting something in the biology field because I am a medical lab science major. What we do in our career is mainly in laboratory. I first looked at Dr. Braccia in the biology department, but she wasn't doing any research. And I'd had a class with Dr. Pierce before, and I knew what kind of research she had done. And Debbie had also recommended her to me. And so I spoke with her about it, and she accepted me as a mentee, and the rest is history. She's an awesome professor. I really like having her as a research mentor. She's really good at being a mentor because she's like really nice, but also she's blunt, and she'll tell us like, no, you did it wrong. You got to do it this way. But it's like, it reinforces us to be more independent, which is what I really like about it. Like, she doesn't hold our hands the entire time. She wants us to learn what we're doing and to be able to do it. It's not just like, oh, well, I'll help you do it all. It's no, this is what you need to do. And, you need to be able to do this. And for me, that was really helpful. Like, I like the fact that now I can just walk in there with new researchers and be like, if they ask me a question, I know what's going on because Dr. Pierce instilled that independence and learning.
Yeah, the McNair program has a strong emphasis on mentorships, and there's sort of their list of people who often mentor McNair students. And so I know sometimes I'm mentoring a McNair student as well, and it's a great program. And but boy, do they push those mentorships. Like, you've got to have a mentor, and it needs to be a strong mentorship. It can't be a passive one where like the mentor is just sort of on paper that they're your mentor, but you never really talk to them. But it's a lot of interactions.
Something like for me that I would suggest, because I don't know, just in case if any McNair scholar ever sees this, what I would suggest is find a mentor who wants to work after the summer, because that's what Dr. Pierce did with us. We did our summer research, but before she even signed on as our mentor, she was like, you have to continue. If you want to do my research, it has to continue because it's a lot of detail, a lot of things you got to take in. It's a lot of learning. And as we continue, we can help new researchers. And for me, having a mentor that would take me on longer than just a summer and like spend, it's almost been a year now being my mentor and letting me research with them has been an extraordinary process. It has been so helpful. And I honestly, it can be tedious. Some people might be like, I don't want to research all that much. But for me, in the long run, it just built up a lot. And I wouldn't change it. It's been awesome.
Yeah, everything Aaron said, pretty much.
Yeah, I've heard from current McNair students and former McNair students, and it's definitely a program that even if it can get kind of tough in some parts of it, but after the fact, they're like, I'm so glad I went through that program because it's very helpful. Madison, can you talk about your experience?
So like I mentioned before, I'm part of the honors program, and part of honors is you have to complete a thesis. So that is what this project is for me. This is my honors thesis. So last year, I was looking at what I wanted to do for my thesis, and I was really interested in exercise motivation. And this was last spring when I was looking for a mentor when we were in full lockdown, not on campus, at home. And I knew that Dr. Larkin had a specialty in exercise motivation. So I just emailed him and was like, hey, I'm wanting to do this project for my honors thesis. Would you be interested in mentoring me? And he agreed, and that's kind of the rest is history. And we've been working on this for, it's been a year now, and it's been a really great experience because he's been super helpful, because I went into this not knowing much, and now I know a lot more. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, the honors program is also just top quality at EKU. Often getting awards that program gets awards of its own. So I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that you got an award for your honors project. But also a big push toward mentorships and making sure that those are good, solid experiences. So your mentor is actually here. So Dr. Larkin, would you like to chime in and just talk about your approach to mentoring and why you do sort of this going above and beyond for mentoring? And we usually don't get a whole lot of incentives for doing this. So what's your experience as a mentor?
Well, when I did my master's degree and my PhD, I was mentored very well. Had a great mentor, Dr. Randy Black. And I just think of him when I think of mentoring. And the things that he did, I thought were very, very well done, exceptional. And so I try to just replicate, I'm not saying I'm as good as him, but I try to do what he did. And one thing that we did at Purdue University was we would just meet at least once a week with the student. And I remember at Purdue, sometimes you just thought, I don't want to go meet that day. For me, it was usually Friday. And you want the week to be done, but by having a weekly meeting, it kept you honest, kept you on track, kept you on pace. And so I tried to do that with Madison, and in the back of my mind, I'm going, she probably hates this, you know. I'm not speaking for you, Madison, but in my mind, I thought, oh no. But it did get us through all the steps and the hurdles that deadlines and so forth, and it just keeps you on task. And but Madison was fantastic. As an undergrad, she's ready for grad school easily. And Madison was just fantastic in meeting deadlines and edits and so forth. And so was a great student, more like a grad student than an undergrad student. So
what motivates you to take on mentees?
Well, she asked me, first of all. And I like the research process, and I like exercise. So here is Madison, and she has her project, and I love exercise science. And so it's a win-win. She has to do a project. I love doing research and exercise motivation, and really anything in exercise, but the psychology of exercise really fascinates me. And so it's a win-win. She's got a need of getting her project done. And of course, it's congruent with what I'm doing, and it's a win-win situation. And I like the process because we know research, it just seems like, you look at a poster and there it is. And that, people don't realize that didn't take 5 minutes to make. That took 5 months, or at least. Madison, when did we start working on this legitimately? Probably in the fall?
Yeah, probably last September-ish.
Yeah, August, September, early fall. And that's when we really started meeting on a regular basis. So, but yeah, she contacted me about a year ago, but it's definitely a process, and I enjoy the process. In fact, it's all done. And I still can't believe we're done because it seems like it should be continuing, but it's done. And so, but you're in it for the long haul. It always seems like there's more to do, but here we are. I guess there's more to do, Madison. We got to finish your actual document, don't we?
Yep. So have to
We've got-
finish the actual paper. Presentation and everything is done, but yeah.
Yes, so she presented her PowerPoint honors presentation yesterday and did a great job with that. She finished her poster for the UP showcase. And but then we still have to have that paper done by finals week, basically. So we got a few more weeks to work, but we'll get her done. But
I really like that you mentioned that, because I've had similar, like I've had people have similar experiences. Like, people don't realize how much time and effort went into the poster. Like, it's not just an immediate thing. Like, we really have to work. Like you guys said, you all have worked on it since, last fall, and that's something you put a lot of time into it. And the final result, most people only get to see a poster.
Yes.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience. So Matthew, you're a mentor and the experience working with her.
Yes, so my mentor is Dr. Anthera. She asked me if I wanted to be an undergraduate research assistant for the multilingual laboratory after I took her cognitive psychology class. I think it was back in fall 2019. And the experience and knowledge I've gained during my mentorship is something I always look back to and think about and appreciate. And she's opened the doors for many different opportunities, and she's done so much to support her students.
And then your project is a senior thesis, right?
Yes, yeah, it is. And that was just through the psychology department.
And I already knew that answer, and I so I taught you one portion of that, but yeah. So what I love about this is that all of your projects had a different entry, like a different path into that mentorship. So you were, it was done in a class and then it sort of blossomed from there, or you were selected by doing well in a class and then you got into a research lab, or you're in the McNair program or the honors program where they really emphasize mentorship. So I love it that you all have different stories and you all came to this great product at the end in these different ways. So that's a nice way to demonstrate that, somewhat by accident, but I love it that we all have different entry points. So my last question for you all, and it's all right if you don't have this completely solidified, but what are your next steps in your career? So Chase?
Well, actually, I recently graduated from EKU back in December, and I actually start a job with Kentucky Fish and Wildlife at Big Rivers WMA actually next week. So I guess that's where I'm going to go.
That's great. So did you talk about your research with them during the interview process?
Yes, I've talked about a lot of research and all the stuff that I've learned at EKU through my classes, and I really think that helped me get that job. That's
fantastic. Congratulations. And I hope the first week goes nice and smooth for you.
Thank you.
So I think there's an understanding that a lot of graduate schools would want you to have done research, but there's not as much talk that employers are interested in you having done research too. So I'm glad that that's your trajectory, or your employer is interested in your research as well. So that's great. Diamond?
So I'm pre-PA, physician assistant. So I decided to sit out this cycle just to gain more like healthcare experience and clinical experience. So I'm going to take a gap year and reapply for the 2023 cycle. So during that time, I'm just going to get more clinical experience, travel, just kind of, take a break, but then like also make sure I'm utilizing my time so that I'm not just wasting it, and I'm actually doing things that are going to better serve me for my future endeavors. So yeah, that's the plan. So hopefully I get admitted to PA school during that cycle.
Great. Yeah, I think it's good that when you're taking a gap year like that you're boosting your resume during that process. And a lot of people, oh, don't do a gap year. You'll just want to sit on a lie in a hammock the whole time. It's like, no, that's there's different.
That would be nice.
Aaron?
So what I plan to do is through McNair, we're required to go into a PhD program or a doctorate program of some type. And I am a medical lab science major. There's only, I think, 3 or 4 programs out there right now for a doctorate in my field, unless I wanted to go through something else. And I'm looking at getting a doctorate in clinical laboratory science, but they require 2 to 3 years of experience. So what my plan is, we do clinicals through our program, and I actually start mine this coming fall. And normally we can get hired where we do our clinicals. So my hope is that I will impress my the hospital I work at and be hired there, get my few years of experience, and then apply and hopefully get accepted into the Doctor of Clinical Laboratory Science program through one of the 3. I think Kansas is the one that I like the most right now. Kansas or New Jersey.
Great. Yeah, what's nice about your research projects is that even if you don't plan on following up with that particular project, you're still gaining transferable in that process, where your process of data collection and data analysis that you might be doing during your career. So I think that's something else. The methodology of research sometimes gives you the training, the hands-on training that you need for your career. So that's great. Madison?
So I have a concentration in pre-physical therapy. So after this, I want to go on and get my doctorate of physical therapy. So I will start that process of applying to grad school this year, end of this summer, beginning of fall. And my eventual goal is to be a physical therapist.
Great. And hopefully your research will sort of inform you about how to get people to exercise and how that message depending on who you're talking to. So that's great. Matthew?
So my career is not really set in stone yet. However, I really enjoy the idea of working in a school environment. So school psychology and school counseling have always really interested me. And I'm going to take a gap year though to kind of make sure what I really want to go into. But as far as the research, Dr. Anthera and I are going to work towards turning it into a manuscript and looking to get it published.
Great. And I would encourage everyone to, if you do have a paper, to send it off for publication. And just a reminder, there is the Kentucky Journal of Undergraduate Scholarship, which your projects are exactly the kind of projects that journal takes in. So that's always an option if you want to explore that one. So I told everybody that we would probably not go all the way to 5 o'clock, and I'm not going to fill the time unnecessarily, but I did want to thank you all and congratulate you once again. And I think it's time for you to celebrate that you earned this award. Now, I'm not just going to give you a sort of a Zoom version of a pat on the back here. We're going to send you a plaque in the mail that is the award. So it'll have your name on it, and you'll be able to hang it up on your wall. So I'll be contacting you over email and asking you for your mailing address. But I hope that you'll be able to also share this video with your friends and family so they can see all the great work you've been doing at EKU. So thank you to everyone. Thank you very much for resisting running outside when it's so nice out, but now you get a chance to do that. So I really appreciate your hard work and dedication to research. I really appreciate your willingness to be on this panel.